Welcome back to the MentALIty podcast with me and Waheed here.
Sup?
There's someone missing, but yeah, we took him.
Dead weight. Don't
Yeah,
need him
he wasn't really needed. We're thinking of a two-person thing might be better
until I piss him off.
until he comes back next week or 2 weeks from now. So yeah, we're talking about this off camera when we were saying you pose a question: what is the best way someone can help another individual who's going through some struggle? And
Okay.
it was about a therapist or a psychologist.
Is that what I said? What's the best way to help somebody?
No, you said, how did you quote it? You said you were saying something like and this is something I've been thinking about throughout studying psychology. It's like, if I've never gone through something, yeah, there's methods and there's certain things that we're supposed to do as therapists
It's coming back to me.
to get a reaction out of somebody, or actually no, that's not to not get a reaction, but to just kind of listen, because a lot of people struggle with even just listening to people.
Or active listening.
Active listening.
There you go.
Yeah, sometimes I'll ask myself, I'm striving to be in a profession where I personally don't think I've ever been, and I say this very loosely, but like depressed or thoughts of suicide, or like very very intense things people go through.
Okay, so
But as somebody who's never felt those things, we're expected to be in rooms
with
people who are like,
which was my ultimate point, right? I was basically like trying to say that the best kind of help you can get is somebody who can at least relate a little bit to some of your life experiences. Now, the problem is, I don't think you need somebody with full-fledged clinical depression.
No, for sure. But
we're human. As long as you go through a depressing moment in your life, you can relate.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
You're relating emotion to emotion, whether that emotion is stabbing someone through the eye or like, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of the extreme case in a mental health crisis.
Yeah.
If you take an extreme case, you just need to be able to relate to the emotion behind it, not so much the act.
True.
Yeah.
No, that's a very well.
So if you have a therapist who's just perfectly normal, which I don't think there is a thing, but if they're too normal, get out now.
Go find somebody else who
get real help.
So, have you heard about the whole thing with Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and how they want to fight?
I know last episode we talked about gambling. Who you got on this?
So
I think I know your answer.
Just so people know, I'm not a gambler, but if I was, and if I partook in this activity, I would have my money. So pretty much you're asking me
experience
without the names. Yeah. If you took the names away, Musk and Zuckerberg, you're asking me, for people who don't know, Elon Musk asked Zuckerberg, hey, if you're down for a cage fight in the UFC, I'm down.
Wasn't he called out though? Wasn't the
Musk called out
yeah.
Zuckerberg? Yes.
Okay, because I was gonna say that it started with the fact that people were seeing Zuckerberg training, and they're like, "Oh, like he's serious, whatever." And then they started to assume, or started
Dude,
to think,
this guy is lethal, bro. I'm not sure if he has a black belt, but he
trains
legit.
for fun, and he's been doing so for a few years. So
yeah,
like,
few years,
and he's got the clear advantage.
Takes down people and everything. However, we're underestimating
GSP.
So, yeah, the somebody who wanted to coach or who wants to coach Musk, like, without getting too much into the sports side of it, he's a very well known UFC legend,
homegrown product.
Yeah, from Montreal, and he wants to coach Elon Musk, and now that'd be good. Like, that's like having Michael Jordan in your back pocket coaching you for the sport that you're partaking in. It's not like someone who's a professional in their sport is coaching you in you're partaking in something else. It's the same sport, right? I don't know. I feel like Elon Musk.
How much prep time does he have? They haven't even set a date yet.
No, they haven't set a date. And last I heard,
I don't think they're gonna do it that soon, just because he needs time to train, right?
Imagine the press conferences.
You think they're gonna fake beef? By the way, talking about the
Meta
beef, Meta versus Twitter. Did you see that? So he had his first. Zuckerberg had his first tweet since, I don't know, I can't remember the year, but he tweeted, and the first tweet he had was a troll, basically saying that he's coming out with a version of Twitter in the Meta universe. And so the people are, this is the beginning of a back and forth that's going to happen now to PR stunt this whole thing.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
so like, do you think they just genuinely hate each other,
No.
or it's just okay?
It's like every fight ever. It's Conor McGregor puts it best. He's like, it's just business. But he usually says that before he gets his ass beat by Khabib. So
We're not going down this road because you're talking to a big Connor fan here, but
yeah.
we'll put that to the side here. For just one thing, I want to touch on the Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. If they do fight in the UFC, people are saying, I read in the Washington Post, they said that, which I don't know how credible it is,
No, it should be fine.
but but like they were saying how I think it was a year ago when Mark Zuckerberg and Meta were taken to court because there were privacy concerns. There was
Oh, Facebook's had a lot of issues with that. Yeah.
So they gave access to 80, 90 million Facebook accounts, like the profile data and all that stuff, to a UK firm called Cambridge Analytica.
Analytica, yeah, I remember
And they
exactly
got taken
now.
to court and all that situation. I bring that to say the Washington Post, I don't know if they were drawing a parallel here, could be a stretch or not, but they were saying how they think this fight could be Mark Zuckerberg in the background because his image and his reputation kind of took a small hit from that.
He kind of did go into a more private lifestyle.
People didn't like. People 10 years ago were like, Zuck is the guy. Like Facebook and everything. Facebook was, I don't know how booming it is now, but
no, you're absolutely right. That was a bad look with him in Congress testifying.
So, for sure. And he constantly reassured them. However, for the average person who doesn't keep in touch with a lot of these things day to day, his reputation, his image got hit. So they were saying maybe this is a way for him to kind of steal some of the fans of Musk. Because Musk has to, bro, when people think of Elon Musk, they think genius. Like they think this guy, space, Mars.
He is, I don't know.
So many storylines there, don't you think?
He is the it man now. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
in the tech, and
then Zuck is the
space, and
who
he's
used to be.
Exactly.
So many
it's
ways
like he's trying to win back the title.
Yeah. It's like, hey, you are the man now, but just remember, I'm the one who started this shit in the early 2000s.
I still remember one of the questions they asked him in Congress when he was testifying, and it was about location data privacy. And he's asking Zuckerberg, he's just like, so in regards to location data, he's just like, well, if you could right now, would you like to share your data with everybody out in the public? As to like your location, they asked him like, how would you feel if we had access to your location at any given time? And he's just like, he already knew where the question was going. And he's basically trying to say like, oh, that's up to the user to, He's giving the runaround, but they were basically trying to say like, okay, well, if you agree with it so much, why aren't you, sharing that information yourself? Your platform does it. If you stand by your platform, why aren't you doing it? Well, he's like, well, Senator, like,
from my understanding, I think the whole that whole situation was
election related.
Exactly, 2016.
But they were grilling him about everything at that point.
They were grilling Zuck about.
Cambridge Analytica was the reason why it got started. Why you even bring him into Congress to ask, and then they started going off on like what's your full potential with storing people's private data. It wasn't so much.
Why do you think UK or like a firm in the UK?
It's exactly what
for the.
It doesn't
Donald
matter
Trump
because
campaign.
at the end of the day, they just do exactly what they say. They do data analytics. All they do is analyze data and develop pattern recognition.
Okay.
It's just one of those firms that do that. And then once they have the data, it's like, okay, well, any other private company who wants to know, I don't know, like what is their stance on guns, right? And then they're gonna go and look at their analytical database and be like, okay, this is the status of people in Philadelphia with this in mind. Like they'll narrow it down.
I wonder what that bag was that they gave Zuck to be like, hey, if we can have access to all your profiles on Facebook, here's several M's. Here's several $1 million.
Well, at the end of the day, he's like, I'm just trying to start Meta. It's going to be the next thing. It's going to take off. And then.
Well, I mean, it's ballsy that the guy ended up changing the name to something, and it still quite hasn't caught on. People say Facebook a lot.
Well, it is Facebook.
It's just so
it's ingrained in your head, and at the same time, I mean, if it looks like an even more Walmart version of Sims, then what are you really doing? If it was early, just say it's early. You didn't have to release it right away.
Well,
nobody was pressuring him.
Have you heard about this like debate on Instagram recently? It's been about the whole blue pill versus red pill and how they were saying
but there are a few different scenarios out there. It's not always the same.
No, that's fair.
Yeah,
I've only seen one, to be fair.
Is it the go back in the past one versus basically getting money now?
The blue pill, if you were to take the blue pill, you'd be back in time with the information but you're 10 years old. Or you take the red pill and then you go to age 25 years old, which for people that are 50, this maybe, I don't know how much supplies, because people will be like, I'll take anyways, the red pill, be 25 years old, but have, I think, like 50 million in the bank account. Now, even for people like us, I'm 29. You bet your ass I'll get 4 years.
Let me get the last 4 years back in the bag.
And 50 million. But then I was just going through comments. It's so split. I read like 50, 60 comments just to kind of get a gauge on what people thought. People were like, "Oh,
there was one podcast that was basically like, oh, if you could go back in time and like redo it." He's just like, "I'll go back in time. I can make unlimited money." He's like, "How?" He's like, "I don't know. I'll invent something."
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I'll invent something like Facebook.
How?
Yeah.
And then he's like,
he's like, "I'll invent Facebook." He's like, "How?"
Yeah. And it's a fair point, bro. Like,
there's no computers.
Yeah, right. So he told him, "Okay, how would you explain the internet to people back in early 2000s or late 90s?"
And he's couldn't even explain it.
Yeah, he's like, it's, or I think he's something dumb. He's like, it's, there's Google. He's like,
what's Google?
Dude, like, you're talking to somebody who thinks you're talking gibberish. Like, hey, internet, you can connect to somebody in Australia, and they'll be like, what are you talking about? So
you mean
it's not
call
as easy.
him? Like,
huh?
It's like, you mean call him, right? It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
no. Like, on your computer, your computer calls him. Like,
no, it's something when you first think about it, people think it's an obvious thing. They're like, oh.
I bring it up just because, like, those comments that are split, probably half the people are thinking, oh, it's easy. I don't know, I'll put my money in a stock or something that I know is going to blow up.
People compare it to time versus money, because the blue pill would be, in this situation, getting back time.
You know how many people,
red would be money.
You know how many people right now, if that was true, would take the pill, go back, and then be flabbergasted, like, oh, what was I going to do? Where am I going to go? What am I going to invest in?
You think they would just...
100%. It's easy in theory, unless you've been spending half your life planning this out.
Bro,
you can't.
I struggle to complete 5 things on my to-do list daily. So to ask to I don't know.
Let's say you go back right now to like 18-year-old you.
Yeah.
You're in school, right? You're probably working security, right?
Yeah.
You're probably making like $15 an hour. Where are you magically going to get $100K to invest? Where are you magically going to get $10K to invest? The same struggle you had then you're going to have now.
Fair.
The only thing is now you have the know-how to be like, you know what? Apple is that new wave. Like
Yeah.
And the dent you can make given that point in your life, I don't think it's going to be as big as you think. You might win $50K, but the 20 million now?
Fair. No. I think on face value, the answer might seem obvious to some people, but if you really sit down and think about it, it's like,
the only thing
how would you create the internet? How would you have a car that runs on just solar power or whatever? How would you?
Yeah, I know. And the only thing is, like, people will never. The only thing I can think of is, even if they flop, in their mind they're buying their years back. That's the only good thing I can see. So you're basically buying your youth back,
which is somewhat desirable to people as well. Like, that could be a thing
that's what I mean. Like, if that's
just
the
want
case,
that alone,
then you get your money's worth. You know what I mean? Like,
if you're 60 and someone poses a question to you, it's like, okay, screw the 50 million. Deadass, screw the 50 million. You tell me I can live 50 years again?
But if it's me, honestly, I'm taking 25. I do not want to go back to school. I hated school. You remember homework? You know how many days I wake up and I'm just glad I work for a living and I don't have homework anymore?
Still, huh?
I still get like the PTSD moments you get where like you wake up, you're like, I have a test, you know?
Oh my God. But I'm sure people can relate to this. Or if you can, just comment or something about that where it's like, if you wake up early and it's a day where you have one of those sleeps where you just feel like you're in a different dimension. You wake up, you're like, where the F am I? And once in a blue moon, I'll wake up and I'll say, oh God, I have to get on the bus. Like when I mean once in a blue moon, I've graduated for a few years now, maybe 3 times in like 4 or 5 years. I've thought to myself, shit, I have to study. Wait, study what?
Yeah, like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. It's like,
I catch those moments.
And those moments are always followed up with, it's like a sense of relief almost.
Actually, you know what's interesting? So just going back to it now, when you mentioned saying most people won't know how to invent Google or how to do whatever, I think it's...
Well, we both said that.
I think it's worse than that. So I think, and this comes out of an alert I saw in the States off like a think tank that basically said if they lost power, and I think the figure was for 9 months, I'll dig it up somewhere, that so much of the percentage of the population would perish, right? And it has to do more with supply chains gone. People don't know how to hunt. People don't know what to eat. People don't know how to make bread. Like, think about it. Flour.
That's
Where
true.
does flour come from?
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
paprika. Do you know what paprika is? The spice.
You make me look dumb on the pod.
No, it's fine.
I don't.
Most people will not know this.
No,
It's dried and crushed red bell pepper.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right. So what I'm trying to illustrate is I'll be like, oh, I'll just make my own food. You know, if I have no power and everything. Apocalypse hits. I'll make my own food. How? We're gonna spice it.
How, Sway?
Spice it with what? You know what I mean? Like, everyone's gonna be eating like white people, bro. With salt and
True,
pepper.
true. No, it's like if shit hit the fan and you had to resort to making your own food, like everything from scratch, a lot of people would struggle. And what's interesting is, like, to transition here, I've seen a lot of videos where, like, back in the day, I used to watch a lot of MTV Cribs, and I used to watch a lot of. I mean, to this day, every now and then, I'll watch a video where there's like a big mansion tour,
Yeah.
and then they show people's like fridges and whatnot in the kitchen, and a lot of wealthy people, and by wealthy, I'm talking like extremely wealthy, they find no point in like making their own food because time is money to them.
So it's empty, right?
Not only is it empty, but they'll hire somebody, right? But I would like to think to myself that if I had a boatload of money, I would still want
To know.
to know how to, bro. These like
Just from a privacy
these
standpoint,
streamers
you don't
or
want
these, like,
somebody there
rich
24/7.
people.
You know what I mean? Like, let's say you
Fair.
have a chef. Okay, cool, you have a chef. But you don't want him around 24/7.
Well, if you're rich enough, you have like a guest house where that's where they live, and it's,
I understand
kind of
the
away from
live-in
you.
chef, right? And you have like live-in maids. I gotta tell you, I think I would want my alone time. I don't
Well, you
want
can
them
have
there.
your alone time.
I know, but
What's preventing you?
let's say you have your alone time. No, point I'm trying to make is if they have their alone time and the chef's gone, what do you like? And they want to make something, you don't want to eat
Oh.
out, you know? Like,
I guess
at
the chef
least
would
for
make something
that
before.
moment, yeah. Well, at that point, they'll just come in the door, you know? Like,
Yeah,
knock,
yeah,
knock,
yeah.
here you go.
No, but it's like, bro, there's stories out there in the States, because that's all I can think of right now. It's like, oh, I don't cook food. It's like, wait, what? It's like, yeah, I don't cook food. I just order Uber Eats all
I
the
think that's the
time.
new norm, though. It's gotta be, man. The food industry right now, the fact that working,
Booming.
yeah, the fact that working class people can support all the Uber drivers that exist right now tells you that there's a demand for food to come to your door and you not get up and do anything.
Yeah.
Like, if nothing else, you're supporting the livelihood of, let's just say there's 1 million Uber drivers for North America. I don't think that's a bold statement. I'm pretty sure there is.
Okay.
Right? If that's the case, your need to order food is supporting the livelihood of 1 million people. Like, so what I'm trying to say is that's how much money's out there. You can support the livelihood of that many people who rely
That's
on
their
that
sole
job.
income. Yeah.
And for
That's their
sole income. And it's not unheard of. All this to say, I don't remember what the figure was, but I'm going to make a guess. I'm going to say that the figure was supposed to be 9 months, and I think 70% of the population in the U.S. to perish due to a lack of power.
If you find that figure, shoot it to me.
I
put it
will,
up on
but
the screen.
I want to throw out a guess.
You're asking me what
Yeah.
I would guess?
Because it tells me how many people
Ask
you
the
think out
question
there
again.
know.
Ask the question again,
So
and I'll give you an answer.
if there was no power,
Mhm.
right, to anyone's home, no power period,
Yeah.
electricity
Yeah.
out,
Yeah.
how many people do you think would die just from lack of basic services, water to the house, food deliveries, food
In the
shortages?
States or North America?
Sure, let's go with North America.
America?
The figure that I read was for the States, so that's going to be the one that we're probably going to throw
Okay,
out.
States.
Yeah.
We'll stick to States. Jeez. So you want me to give you a number or just a percentage out
Just
of
a
the total
percentage,
population?
yeah, and then
Percentage out of
we'll go and fact check it. But
percentage. America.
I want to know how many people you think might survive off just what they know.
Yeah, I get it. But then again, there's a lot of assumptions and factors here. But let's go with like 46%.
You're giving this a lot.
I know, I'm taking way too much time. That empty space, I'm just gonna edit out. 46%, about half.
Okay.
About half people.
It keeps me up at night sometimes, not that, but the fact that if power goes out, everything hits the fan, that nobody knows what to do. Like,
We have such a reliance on that
gardening,
stuff.
man. How are you gonna grow food? How are you gonna know like which mushroom to pick that won't kill you? You know what I mean?
We don't.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. So
Most people, I can confidently
so
say,
I'll like
don't.
1 a.m. go through the rabbit hole and be like, okay, flour, where does it come from? How do I make it at home?
Just to,
You know, or like
just to like broaden your knowledge.
there's actually a really good book, and if anyone else there out there can get it, my dad actually has a copy, but it's called When There Is No Doctor. And it's like a whole book on like, okay, if this were to happen, how are you going to do it with household items? If this were to happen, how are you going to do it with household items? And it's just to show you like, I don't know, cauterizing wounds, like treating infections, stuff like that. That book, when the apocalypse comes, is going to be mandatory.
Clutch. It's gonna be sold out and on back order like crazy.
And the reason why I bring up the apocalypse is because that figure that I heard for 9 months and 70 whatever percent of the population in the States, that figure came out of a think tank whose purpose it is to devise these situations, factor everything in, and give an educated guess as to what's going to happen. And the reason why they had to do that was because of something called the Metcalfe power station attack. And so that was in Metcalfe, California, where basically a group of terrorists, and they labeled them as terrorists. Yeah, terrorists. Labeled them as terrorists, basically were able to shoot at a power station in Metcalfe, California, downing, I don't know how many neighborhoods from power, and caused, I want to say, 500 million in damage, I think, something like that.
Okay.
And the point being was it took them forever to get power back up. And one of the things that took place was they used hand signals and light signals to basically initiate the attack. They were never caught. Till this day.
Oh.
And the way they operated made it seem like they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
Like no communications, no nothing.
Yeah.
What was it, 4 or 5 simultaneous teams opened up fire at the same time using light and hand signals. All of them fired a 7.62 by 39 round, which is the Russian standard Russian cartridge. But again, it's the States. You can get it there too. It's not to say anything. But the point being is that figure came out of this attack to basically say, all right, well, if our energy sector is under attack, what's that going to look like? Like, let's say it's a large scale attack, whatever. Like, this was one tiny one, right? Now let's assume worst case scenario, power goes out. And then that's how this study came to be, was they were trying to find that out. But
But like that was the stem of it, or
exactly.
the spark.
And like, it's not really a conspiracy theory, but basically what I'm trying to say is, if somebody was trying to reset the world and they attacked the power station first, everyone's going to need to rely on what they know. And think of how many people are going to perish.
Now, some people, I remember working with this guy. Okay, I remember working with this guy where he would say, I won't name drop his name because no one would. But what he said
fully
was
out there, like tinfoil to the head, or like tinfoil everywhere.
a little bit.
Yeah,
a little bit, dude. If you ever come across this, man, it's all love, all right. But what he said was, and he was very outspoken about this. What he said was that during the COVID pandemic, how a lot of older people were dying, right?
Okay.
And he was harping on the fact that we have a lot of people on Earth, right? He was saying, hey man, like if you can't survive this and you're just old enough, like good riddance. Like it's
Go
time
into
to
the light, let go.
lower the population number. And I was like, okay, man.
So him and Thanos be besties,
100%. 100%. You heard about this heat wave in China that's been going on?
My guy, there's a heat wave here.
Oh yeah, right now. Oh my god, yes. But
I was like, who cares about China? It's been 35 plus every single day of the week.
I understand, but with China being such a important exporter to Canada,
Okay.
or just a lot of countries, it's China, it's Asia as a whole, but China is just in terms of population wise and just sheer distance of land, very big country, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So like a lot of their lakes are drying up, their crops are dying.
This I kind of knew. So their heat wave has been ongoing for quite a while. It's like a yearly repetition, and it's always outpacing the year before.
August 2022 was a big one, and right now, currently, it's pretty bad. During the afternoon, it's hitting 40, 45 degrees. I mean, we're hitting, it feels like 38, 39, almost 40 degrees, to be fair.
You remember the story I covered a while back about cloud seeding?
Yes.
So one of the main...
Which never made the... So
What?
people listen.
Never made the cut?
No.
Okay.
Was that last week? No, it wasn't last week.
No, it wasn't last week.
Regardless, I'm just reminding you, maybe people haven't.
Okay.
If you can summarize in like 10 seconds.
10
30
seconds?
seconds.
Okay.
Yeah. From the
No
shore.
science on this one.
Sure.
So cloud seeding is basically the artificial stimulation of clouds in order to get it to rain. We know how to do it. We don't have an exact science on how much we can extract, but countries use this all the time to basically cool the weather down on demand.
Cloud seeding, yeah.
Cloud seeding, yeah.
Okay,
And
so what about it?
It's by firing like a salt or silver iodide into the air and basically allowing the water to collect and then drop. So
what's the story?
they were using that because again, everybody technically.
Okay, all of us.
So the UAE uses it whenever it gets too hot and it's the desert. If it hasn't rained in a while, they'll just artificially be like, "Hey, go make it rain."
Make it rain.
They got the money for it. China famously used it for Beijing Olympics around that time period.
I don't know about this.
And then also more famously than that, the time it was used for war was in the Vietnam War. Yes, Vietnam War, where they used it to basically bog down the enemy in mud.
So you can make it rain on demand.
Yep.
Wow.
But again, the part they haven't figured out is how to know which cloud to select accurately and also how much rain to expect. They can't really, they don't know 100% yet by firing it at a cloud that's deemed ready, how much they're expected to receive. And on top of that, they don't know what this is going to impact with water sustainability.
Oh.
Right, if you're making clouds rain ahead of time before they're naturally supposed to do so.
True, because it's something new. It's not. Or actually, no, not new, because you just mentioned war. So
yeah, it's not new, but it hasn't been used commercially that often either. Like we're talking about like, I don't know. In China, my whole point was in China they were using it more and more frequently. I think their numbers are a lot higher, but in North America and I guess Dubai, we're not really using it that much.
So why aren't they?
I'm sure they are using it.
Okay, but how about places? And this is just from one friend to another.
I brought it up for the wildfires. That's why I brought it up on the story. And I said, well, we should look into it. But I'm assuming they have looked into it, and for whatever reason, they deemed it as not appropriate.
So why wouldn't you be able to use that in places like Africa or other areas?
So it's still...
Or is it just because there's
still,
no clouds?
Well, no. Even if there are clouds, not every cloud is going to have enough moisture to be set up.
Oh, true.
Right? You have to have like a sort of baseline.
That makes sense.
And on top of that... the cloud picks up its moisture from ground, right? So either that's lakes, rivers, whatever. It has its own it has its own basic version of osmosis filtering, which is even if the ocean humidity from the ocean does arise, it's salt water.
Yeah.
It has a way of removing the salt, naturally rather than having a desalination plant. So it picks up moisture from the ground to then go up to the cloud to then re-rain down. That's why I bring up water sustainability, because that's one of the reasons why China went to shit, was because if you keep having a distribution of population from all the tribal areas, let's call them, into the main hubs, main cities, those cities and their water sources weren't meant to support that many people, right? So the theory is if everyone drinks water and then urinates and it goes into the sewer system and then they clean it up and then that water's back out. But now if you have more people...
But if you were to tell the average person in public that, hey, the water you're drinking is once upon a time from like you're in the big whatever, because people are very face value. They don't.
You want to make it worse? All right, for everybody out there, your drinking water in Ottawa comes from the Ottawa River. That thing that we hate, that's disgusting, that's fed by a freshwater lake. Take one look at it. You've been drinking that day in and day out.
Now, so it's almost like, especially when it comes to water, which is so essential for people. People would not want to. Most people, I would think, would not want to know where their water is like. If the mass, okay, how am I trying to say this? If the masses are drinking one source of water from water bottles or from your sink, a lot of people won't delve into seeing like, oh, what type of minerals are in this water. Like they just kind of take it at face value. Okay, if you're drinking it and if he's drinking it, then and like you're good, then I should be good as well. A lot of people don't delve into. So if you were to tell someone on the street, hey, like where do you think your water comes from? The average person, I would think, would be like,
we should take it to the street and just ask. I'm curious to know how many people in Ottawa know where it comes from. Yeah.
No, I'm joking. We don't have anything.
But no,
it's in the works.
The more interesting part is, think about life on Earth and how all life on Earth that are mammalic, I guess, like mammals, we rely on fresh water. Except for fish. Fish can make do with salt water, but we need fresh water. And so it's a bold argument to make because I don't know the exact percentage, but the odds are that the water that passed through dinosaurs has passed through us too. We have the same drinking source. And due to water sustainability, whatever we drink will, and like matter cannot be destroyed, right? It can just be transformed and reshipped in different packaging.
Yeah.
So the water that's been here has been here.
Yeah, and it will continue to be
Yeah,
here.
that's yeah, exactly.
Climate activists.
Well, it's going to increase, right? Because all the ice in the glaciers, that's fresh water.
Yeah.
And that's all going to redistribute, and then it's going to affect the pH. That's a whole like climate argument, but
Yeah. I remember.
what?
I remember Joe Rogan said that he was like, "Yeah, this whole thing with Greta Thunberg." He said that like 5 years ago, she said that in 5 years, if we don't act and do something to like preserve our Earth, that we're gonna be flooded.
Yeah,
Like the
like New York.
yeah, well, like the majority of the world will be
Yeah.
flooded, and then he was like, "Oh, the look how dumb she is." Like, look, he said that. He was like, "Yo, look how dumb she looks now," because we're 5 years later
Yeah.
and we're still trekking on. And I was like,
Buddy,
"Okay, Joe,
that-
I
that's a-
see
that's
you."
a- that's a-
But Joe would fuck
Well,
up anyone.
he has an apocalypse plan. Like he talks about it openly. He's like, "Yeah, I have a plan." He's like, "I know where my guns are. I know where I keep
Dude,
them
isn't
loaded."
it
Like,
crazy that like speaking about apocalypse, and this is kind of going off topic, but how there's people that would pay a large sum of money, and there's a facility somewhere in the States, and they don't tell you the exact
Doomsday
location.
Hotel bunker, is it that one?
What's like underground, and
yeah.
there's a gym, there's a swimming pool in there. The fact that people prep, like right now, there's people out there who are maintaining a facility, and there's like
Just in
workers and
case, yeah.
janitors and stuff to maintain a facility if the world went to shit.
You know what?
Very fascinating.
I might apply for a part-time job. I imagine the staff that's there also gets access to those areas. I clearly can't afford it, so maybe I work my way into it. You know,
You start as like a typical
maybe I can.
part-time employee, and then you work your way up, and then 25 years
Maybe I
later,
can manage the rich kids section. You know,
yeah, yeah.
like,
There's a library there.
there
it's
no
like-
one's gonna read.
Well, when you're in I would think if you're in an apocalypse, there's like a
It's
cafeteria
the
and
perfect
stuff.
time to read. Yeah,
Yeah,
which might solve all the issues and to not let it happen again. You know, people might listen to information at that point.
for anyone like me listening out there on the internet who struggle to read, and by reading I'm talking not just like for school, I'm talking everything other than like forced reading. For me, the majority of my reading would be like to do research on these podcasts. It's actually good because I would research and stuff so that I'm reading, but I'm talking a typical buy a book, hard copy, sit down and read.
I can't do it either.
I have a lot of books,
I can't do
and
it.
I know a lot of people out there. As this is a fact. I mean, there's nothing to really pop up on the screen and prove it to you, but
Just put the
ju-
words fact.
I'll do it.
Ali's fact.
Fact. Boom. Boom again. How they would have a lot of these books and just have it in their shelf for like for looks. And like
Yeah.
a lot of people won't sit through every book and read it all the way through.
You know what pisses me off? The people who are like, "Oh, did you read?" Or they wait for someone to come over and they'd be like, "Oh, what's this? Oh, you're reading this book?" And it's like one of those self-help books, and it's like Jay Shetty or whatever, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it changed my life." Really, Becky, your life was changed? Show me how. That you know, because you said for looks and appeal, those are always for looks and appeal. People do not get around to reading those books.
The latter of what you said, I agree with. However, I do own quite a bit self-help books. I'm gonna keep it 100 with you.
Yeah. And your life has changed?
That's the issue.
No. Has
haven't
that book
sat
changed
down
your
and
life?
read them through.
Has-
They're collecting dust as we speak.
You haven't started any of them. Let me tell you my opinion, and it's not. I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this. My honest opinion is, I think
say it, man.
self-help books are a tax on stupid people. That is my personal opinion because most people will end up in a situation where they
People don't
put
have
so
the
much.
answers, bro.
I
So they
understand.
need someone
I understand.
to kind of break it down in lame, not lame, simplify in basic, quote unquote, dumb terms to
Mm-hmm.
be like, hey, you wake up, have a routine. You know, a lot of people are not able to. do that.
Here's my point.
So what's your point with self-help books?
So how
What's your beef with them?
my beef with them? Okay, let's say go make a routine, right? Eat healthy, exercise, work out. Let's say they spew any of that. That
Spew.
Yeah, let's say that was the point they're trying to make. You telling me right now online you can't find that information for free? You had to pay $22.99 on someone's book. Tony Robbins is the only one telling you how to be successful
Yeah, but why do people show up and sell out his seminars all throughout the
because
world?
they're charismatic individuals. When you see them, it's the same thing as anybody who has a good enough speech and has that charisma. You want to listen to them when they enter a room. You want to, and the thing is, what they're saying is not wrong. You want to help yourself. Those are ways to do it. But
so you're saying it's a tool out there.
But you reading that in a book won't magically make you do it.
So what you're saying is that the self-help community, it's a big community out there. Swear by these books, helping them and changing their lives. And you think it's like
I think it's a tax on stupid people. Yes, that was the words I used, and the reason why. And this rubs people the wrong way. No, it rubs people the wrong way. But here's the thing. Again, like I'm saying, first of all, that information, if you really wanted help, it's out there online. You don't really need to pay for it. There, Instagram, man, scroll through it. You know, people repeat the keys to success, and it's the same 3 themes repeated.
But there's something about having
I understand.
a book.
I understand. But if you
like
need
all the information is right here.
But if you needed a book sworn by some people that'll change your life, it's the miracle book. If you needed that, odds tell me that you don't want to put the effort into do any of the things that are in that book. You wanted that one thing that solves all. It's the same thing as a lottery, man. Everyone sees it like, oh, did you see that group? They all went in together. We should do that too and win. And then people start getting addicted, and every day they're there spending like $80 to win like 20 every week.
Bro, the fact that we're still experiencing the effects of this fire across Canada is concerning. And for someone who has a cat who's very outdoorsy,
yes,
you're really
Trudeau,
hurting us here.
You really need to consider cat asthma. Yeah. You need to consider cat asthma. It's a leading disability.
Selfish. Can you imagine someone thought that? Bro. But no, like in all seriousness, there was a article that you sent to me one time, and I kept it. And I always wanted to read it about how Canada
how unprepared we are,
ill-equipped. Yes, yeah. Like the fact that if this rages on, we don't have our inventory of, what would you call it? The water bomb.
I want to say P10, whatever it's called, the P08, whatever.
But we're not ready for that. So aviation and emergency experts say that like the country's approach on these
I remember it's coming back to me
planes,
now. Yeah,
or these like specifically made aircrafts.
It's a proven design. I remember that, and it's an old design from the 60s, 70s, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. They being Canada, we rely on these aircrafts being, so both planes and firefighters, to be shared between provinces.
And what's the problem with that when it rages across multiple provinces? How are you going to share resources, right?
True. Yeah,
so that's why they're ill-equipped. I remember the article exactly, and they were basically talking about like, okay, well, usually it's like we have a fleet of, let's say, 60, wherever it is, we'll all tackle it together. Now you have wildfire, BC, Alberta, and you have Quebec, right? And Ontario had a few. So what are you sharing? Who gets the most? Is it by size of fire? Is it by proximity? Is it by, at the end of the day, we're just not prepared. And that plane, by the way, has a long list of other purchasers ahead of us. And they got that company just recently, I think, restarted selling that plane because it's an old design. And I guess they expected people to move on. It's a dated design, but it's proven. That's why they wanted it, because it's a proven design. Like, it's worked in
just like Stockton Rush purchased a lot of bolts and nuts for his submersible, being like tried and true.
Yeah.
I'd rather go to a home hardware store than they came out today, Ocean's Gate. And
they're done.
Said that they've temporarily, which I don't know how temporary is going to be,
bro.
But they temporarily stopped all excursions
until they can convince their own employees to do a test run. They should remain closed. Like if they're going to reopen it, let them go down first.
Like, finally, you're really advocating for this? How about you get in submersible and go 30,000
I want them to live stream like, "What's up, guys? I'm here." Submersible, like and subscribe. Yeah,
it's funny, but also not sad as well.
Speaking of ocean things, though, I had a story, and this is sad, half sad. It's like The Notebook, but with dolphins. So basically, it's the love story of a dolphin, and with a sad ending. So
is this as crazy as the last week I found, or 2 weeks ago I found out that a girl got married to the Eiffel Tower? I didn't know about this. Is it as crazy as that?
I think it's as crazy, but we'll see. So there's a lady named Margaret Lovett, whatever.
Lovett.
Yeah. She was working with dolphins back in 1964, I want to say. It's
if
a
you
NASA.
Say she got married to this dolphin, I'm walking out. Oh my god.
No. It's not like that. No.
I won't interrupt you.
No, it's not like that. It's just funny. Anyways, so basically, she got this project with dolphins funded by NASA. They were trying to see if they can get dolphins to understand humans and then mimic them in the human language, which was English that they were trying to teach it. So they basically wanted to get dolphins to communicate with humans. That was the extent of the experiment. So she had a dolphin named Peter that they grew attached with. Basically, she would sleep beside him, feed him, sleep like basically beside the tank, wake up with him every day, go to sleep with him every day, play with him every day, and try to teach him every day. Now, Peter, at the time, at the beginning, he was a child. He started nearing his adolescent age during the experiment. And keep in mind, at this point, she was 3 months into basically every day of her life with this dolphin. So as he started to mature, he had urges, right?
Okay.
And so to satisfy his urges, well, back up, he was rubbing on her. She knew what it was. She knew his age. She's like, all right, we need to transport him to another facility to basically go and satisfy his urges with 2 female dolphins.
This guy's popping out. Okay.
Yeah, Peter the dolphin, bro.
Oh my
So
God.
basically, they found that it was a logistical nightmare to keep sending him over to these female dolphins, for which, by the way, he was kind of satisfying himself, but also not. He was like kind of there, but not really.
In and out.
Yeah, he was in and out. He kind of grew to dislike it. They ended up bringing him back to Margaret. And so Margaret then found out that he was starting to develop an attachment to her. And he would consistently like rub himself against her, which is the dolphin way of saying like, yo, you get me going, you know?
Yeah. You excite me.
Yeah, it's dolphin second base. So
As if we're talking about dolphin. All right, keep going. I'm curious.
so basically,
I'm fascinated.
Peter became so infatuated with her that he's such a high school story. He was so horned up that he started slacking on his studies and he wasn't learning how to mimic humans anymore. It was distracting the experiment. So then she said, you know what? You don't want to see the female dolphins. You're not learning. How about I take care of it for you? So she started servicing Peter the dolphin. Yeah, just to get him to focus. Like she was stimulating him till arousal in order to then get him to calm down and focus on his studies, focus on the task.
What a story.
Yeah. It is an end there. So basically, at the end, they deemed the experiment useless because Peter just kept wanting to smash. That's all he wanted to do, right? Like
What a high sex drive, Peter.
Yeah,
Okay, I
Peter's
see you, boy.
Apparently, dolphins are one of the few that do it for fun than just reproductive purposes. Like they have an actual need outside of reproduction to do it. You know what I mean? And
Learned something new today.
So basically, and I told you this was a love story. Peter's not just trying to hit it and quit it. He gets depressed when she's not around. So much so that when they ended the experiment,
Don't tell me he died.
and Margaret held up basically said that it's not working out, whatever, and they closed down the project, Peter was released back into his tank. And then slowly, and I didn't know dolphins can do this, dolphins need to come back up to grab air. Not that often, but like they're mostly underwater. And then every so often they got to come up and get air and go down. Peter held his breath the entire time in order to commit dolphin suicide. Yeah, because he was in love with Margaret. And because Margaret went away, Peter went depressed mode. And then Peter committed suicide. So, do we need to get them to start seeing like dolphin psychiatrists or what? Like dolphin depression is a thing.
Wow. That's very fascinating.
So this story went from
Animals, bro. Wow.
I don't know if that's more wild than Eiffel Tower, but
No, the Eiffel Tower story perplexed me beyond belief. I was like, okay.
really more than
I need to take
a 50-year-old woman smashing a dolphin.
Oh, you know what?
Actually, I think she was in her 30s at the time of the
I don't
experiment.
care how old you were, bro. I don't give a shit.
They were both in their prime.
She's like peak. She's like fertile. AF.
Actually, you want more crazy information? So
About this-
it's related to
more.
it's related to the story.
Sure.
So she came out when she was like 54, 60, whatever, and basically went to BBC explaining the whole story and what happened with Peter.
And this is when in the early 90s?
No, this was 1964 when the experiment started. I don't know exactly when it ended, but she talked about it now.
Ethically, that would never fly today.
Actually, the ethics of it did come up, but I guess nobody cared because the highlight of it was just so funny.
Yeah. People used to
Nobody
say,
got hurt except for
the
Peter.
story
You know what I mean?
ends. It's like kind of sad, but yeah.
I mean, I laugh still.
Yeah.
Like, bro, like R.I.P. Peter, my
Yeah.
guy, bro. He died for love.
Moment of silence.
He died for love, bro.
Yeah.
I don't know if dolphins do it or the sound is. But the more messed up thing is when she came out in her press conference and basically said everything, there was an uptick in something called Delphinophiles, I want to say. There's a group of people that over fantasize the relationship that dolphins and humans have.
Bro, there is something in everything. So I'm sure there's people out there that think.
Yeah, so apparently they went off on this story and they're like, oh my, and they started like typing on forums and like, oh, like what was Peter wearing? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Well, you get the drift, yeah. And there's like a whole thing about this. They're called Delphinophiles, I think.
Wow.
I'm sure Florida's got more than a few.
Well, I assume Florida.
I just assume, bro. Proximity to the ocean and it being Florida.
It's a Florida thing.
Still not that wild, eh? It's not wild enough for
No,
you?
it is wild. I'm trying to really get this story wrapped around my head. Wow. Okay. Moving on. I don't know how I'm going to move on from that story. From one story to another. There's a Chinese man who lived in an airport for 15 years. You heard about this story?
What kills me about this story is how blunt he was.
Bro, he doesn't give a fuck. This man...
I want you to recap it for us, and basically, I want you to get to the part for the viewers to basically hear why he describes why he doesn't go
why
home.
he did this.
Yeah.
Okay, so this man, I'll leave the reason to the end to kind of build it up.
100%.
So this man's been living, Chinese man has been living in an airport for 15 years. Now you're thinking to yourself, how did nobody notice? So people would notice. Security guards would notice and tell him, hey,
He
you
got
got to
booted
leave.
out a few times, yeah.
And he would leave and come back. But I don't recall which airport this is. I'll put it up here. But the airport, I would presume it's pretty big. So he would, it's so big. And wherever you are, sometimes there's like, not like hiding spots, but there's spots where like you can like get away with staying longer than other areas. Like if you're in the main public area.
From what I understand, though, he was in one terminal.
Oh my God, that makes it even worse.
Like it was his favorite terminal, I think. Or he spent majority of his time there or something like that.
So 15 years and... How do I say this without saying he looked the part?
He looks like he's an avid casino gambler. Station. Yeah.
He had like a station full on. And the main reason why he did this is because he wanted to get away from his family.
But why did his family... Why did he want to get away from his family? What was his family's issue with him?
Well, what was it again?
It had to do... Okay.
Go, if you can finish it.
Yeah.
What was it?
So his family's issue with him was his drinking and his smoking.
Oh, that's what it was.
And he would constantly drink and smoke all of his money away and everything. It turns out that he's getting a paycheck from the government. I don't know if it's
just enough to cover the expense.
And it's something like EI. Let's call it EI. I don't know what it is. But he gets this check
Chinese
from the
equivalent.
government. And he used to spend it all, even when at home, drinking and smoking.
Yeah.
And basically, his wife and kid, his wife was like, either you stop drinking and smoking or you get the hell out. This man, next day, bro, packed his bags, went to an airport, and continued drinking and smoking. Till this day, they're like, why don't you go back? He's like, I'm happy here. I'm drinking and smoking. And it's like, what? They allow me to be free. That's what it was. Yeah.
And like the 2 or 3 biggest comments here is some of them are funny. Some of them are taking shots at him. One's like, no rent or expenses. He's winning at life.
Like,
another one's like, yo, honestly, good for the family. If he chooses to drink and smoke over them, he deserves to be alone. I was like, oh, okay. Oh my God. This story is probably the biggest story we're going to talk about since we started this whole podcast thing. And this is something I've always been wanting to talk about. Yeah, bro. 2025, for the first time in history, they've approved for a flying car.
Oh my, yeah, okay. I saw this.
That is... I've always...
Yeah, that's what I needed.
I've always had a fascination.
I needed another product that I can't afford. That's exactly what I needed.
$300,000.
You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly.
$300,000. 2025, bro, that's
should we pitch?
A year and a half.
Should we pitch? All of us? Just pitch on financing one. And be like, yo, I'm trying to fly Tuesday. Like, I got you. Wednesday's mine. Like, and just schedule it.
The fact that it could... From my understanding, it's like... One of the comments... I saved this because it's so funny. One of the comments was like, quotations... Controlled by a PS4 controller.
Well, there's no way it's gonna implode, right? Like,
I shouldn't be laughing, but it's dark humor, okay? Just
you know what's darker than that? Just while we're on this, we'll come back real quick. But Subway was in trouble that one of their signs,
Oh god.
one of the Subway signs for Subway sandwiches was like, at least our subs don't implode.
Not funny.
It was
Not funny.
deemed too soon, and we respect that on the podcast.
Not funny. Yeah, we take into consideration as a space, a podcast space where we, we're supposed to focus on mentality and the psychology of things.
Yes, we're
but
supposed to
damn.
focus on mentality, and we talk about Dolphin smashing people.
Well, someone can question what was her mentality doing
It
that.
doesn't matter about her mentality.
The Dolphins' mentality
No,
was
Dol-
let me slay.
But think of yo, I'm just picturing a dolphin high five between the guys. But at
My
the end of
man.
the day, let's be honest, bro. That
Peter.
that shows that they have an ability for emotion that we didn't think was possible. You know what I mean?
On a more serious scale, definitely animals can feel.
And even more than that, what was the point in fund? What did NASA fund it for? Are you gonna sell dolphins to space? Like,
I feel like NASA's willing to fund anything nowadays. If I recall correctly, just to touch on the Ocean's Gate,
Yeah.
they partly funded
yes,
that.
yes. But I guess their logic was because they knew some of the moons out there have possibly have water. Titan is one of them. That might have water, that their assumption was, okay, how do we do deep sea navigation? We don't even know how to do it here. Like, let's perfect deep sea exploration here and move on to there. And maybe that was part of the reasoning. I actually don't know. I have to imagine that's the case.
How do you think this whole flying car thing will,
How it'll work. You remember episode 1? Do you remember our first episode?
like, first episode we posted or first episode?
First episode we posted.
Okay.
Do you remember the story headline? You brought it up. It was some lady who took her driving test how many
Oh my
times?
god.
How many times?
So I think that was the first episode several hundred times.
Several hundred times. I don't think we're ready for a flying
Like
car
30,
to
she
be in
spent
the
like $34,000 over a span of like 2 decades.
It better come with a pilot's license. I'm not trying to have
Oh man. With more people being born, more cars being purchased, more cars on the road. Do you think flying is a decent solution?
No.
Flying car. Okay, so but they're accessing the XYZ dimension, like
yeah, I understand
they're
what you're saying.
accessing a way where
Yeah.
it can have like floating traffic lights or a way to
Yeah,
get
right
it
now
to
we're
work.
navigating through length and width. You're talking about height now
Yeah.
as the third dimension. Yeah, I get that. How do you think they're achieving that? How does a car fly?
Oh, we're so behind.
No, how does a car fly? You're saying 2035.
No, 2025.
2025.
Year and a half.
Yeah, year and a half. That technology to make cars fly has existed for a while. There's a reason why they didn't do it. And there's
Safety hazard?
a
Falling on you? A car flying on you?
safety hazard wasn't the point. Yes, it's a consideration. It's not the main point. How does a car fly? How does a plane fly? You like this, right?
No, propeller. I don't want to. Well, what's the word? The engine. How they?
Yeah.
My God, the terminology I'm so bad in.
Anything that flies.
What the hell
right?
was this?
Anything that flies using propeller or turbines. That's what you're still talking about. Turbines. It flies on packets of air. That plane is allowed to be aloft by floating on packets of air, and you generate enough speed to, I guess, pressurize those packets to then sustain that plane on its path. Now that's where you use electricity possibly to fly a plane. But how would you do it with a vehicle that's not aerodynamic? How does a rocket ship?
Well, it's not going to go on gas. It's going to go off of like a battery.
How? You talking about helicopter cars? This is what I'm trying to say.
Elon, figure it out.
Because right now it's the same problem that rocket ships have. Why can't a rocket ship work off electricity?
The output isn't as.
Think about how a rocket is shaped. Think about even if you had electricity, what are you using to push that up? How does a helicopter get up in the air? It's a propeller.
Propeller,
right?
yeah.
You can use electricity to spin a propeller. It's a motor, right? It could do it. A rocket ship can't generate the same level of thrust using a propeller. It needs a propellant, like an explosion.
Okay, so like the level of
like a fuel,
force,
right? It needs like how much force it needs to generate in order to lift off.
Not enough.
Is not enough to use a propeller or a turbine.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Turbine means you need aerodynamics. A propeller means you need to have enough force to basically lift the weight of what you're doing upwards. And in a spaceship, you don't have the aerodynamics. So propeller is one of your few options. On top of that, you can't use electricity to push all that weight up. You need a propellant. You need fuel, jet fuel, or rocket fuel, sorry, in order to do that. So now a flying car. My main concern is the environment because they're not addressing the fact that everything's going electric and they're just introducing another fuel source that'll basically emit directly up in the air.
Oh,
right? So my problem, and I think one of the reasons why they didn't do it was feasibility.
It seems like something, bro.
It seems like something they're gonna sell to like 12 people or like one Saudi prince for
I
the
don't
whole
even think
fleet.
it gets to that point.
What?
Like I think it's very eye catching. Oh my god! For the first time in history, it got approved, the flying car in 2025.
You don't
But
think
to actually get implemented and see it testing,
I don't think it's gonna be
it'll ever
tested. I think you're gonna end up with like a few people who just purchase it. Like it'll be commercially.
Yeah, just to say, hey, I have a flying car in my
Yeah,
my
you're
driveway.
gonna see a few Saudi princes being like mine.
To wrap up this pod, I want to talk about the whole situation with the boycott of Budlight company. Have you heard about this?
Okay, yeah.
Pretty much with this whole Budlight boycott, just to kind of make it quick here, is a company like Budlight sent out the beers to a trans influencer. A trans influencer promoted it.
Yep.
And then a lot of people took offense because bars started not serving Bud Light because Bud Light and other companies are still trying to get accustomed to this whole like LGBT. I can never nail it in one try. LGBTQ2 plus. I think there's more to
I
it.
have no idea, man. Like it's
Okay. I'm trying to be inclusive here.
I'm trying to make sure you don't miss a letter because we're not trying to get canceled right away.
But also, like, I want to speak my mind without being filtered. So it's very interesting to see some companies in different areas of the globe not waver and not budge and not have a flag with rainbow on it.
I see it more in North American corporations where they're trying to include that marketing, that kind of marketing. One of the things I'm going to say is so you know how you're saying you're seeing it more and more, and I think you're trying to formulate a point saying that there's a correlation between them bringing that type of marketing out and them losing profits or losing interest. Is that your? Because I have something to say against it.
Okay, sure.
So what I was going to say is
what you said.
there's a lot of North American companies that for the sole purpose of money are marketing to
Just for higher sales.
just for high sales, recognition, PR, whatever. One of the companies, and I sent this on our little group, and these guys have nothing to do with a divisive political issue in regards to trans rights, is Lockheed Martin.
Oh, with the
Lockheed Martin doesn't just manufacture planes. They manufacture warplanes. They manufacture missiles. They manufacture anything that kills somebody. They probably have a hand in it. So you tell me what they have to do with the trans community, and their marketing campaign was just to basically have a whole bunch of flags, and they were in the Pride Parade. Like the picture I had sent was Lockheed Martin in all rainbow colors at the Pride Parade.
Isn't it fucked that a rainbow is not what a rainbow was growing up to us anymore? Like when I see a rainbow anywhere,
Lucky Charms. Sorry, you.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, bro. And terms that you can't. If in today's age, I just said the word pride, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Oh, I guess in today's, you're talking about.
They're very smart. They managed to weave pride
Into
the word, like you don't
into
have to say
6
gay pride
letters.
anymore.
Yeah.
Just I'm prideful of my heritage, but just say pride.
Do you know where that hit me? I was at work, and I was complaining. That the fact that so Canada Day this year was a huge flop, right?
It rained, so the weather didn't cooperate.
Weather didn't cooperate, but also our our leaders basically said that events are canceled because of the air quality. Like people shouldn't be outside. Okay, I respect it. And then the thunderstorm happened, rain happened, everything cleared up, and then they're like last minute, they're like everything's a go. But people were at home already. People were just hanging out. Like they authorized it later, and that was
same
only
day or day before?
Yeah, same day. It was only in the city of Ottawa. Yeah. And anyway, so there was lots of things that led it to be a flop. But the main reason is, and I'm very jealous of the States with this, we don't have like a national pride. Not like the States does. Not like any other country does. Not like Turkey. Turkey, like they have a national pride. Egypt, they have a national pride. Like, man, even Greece, like all these countries have like this pride where they're like, oh, like this is my, I don't know how to explain it. Yeah. So when their day comes, they go off. They celebrate everything. Have you noticed that from the Canada
Even
Day
the 4th
that
of July?
happened? Yeah. Well, that's we can't compete.
States.
But like,
Dude, the States.
but even Canada Day when you were a kid, compare that to now. Have you seen the fireworks shows now?
the past 2 years, no.
It's way more. I just watch it off people's like recordings and everything. It's way more depressing, man. Like,
Really?
and they don't have nearly as many events for the kids. They still bring the singers and everything. But I remember going there and there was like Coke set up like a little thing where they're like, oh, taste test, blindfold taste test all these drinks and tell me which is which. And if you get it right, you get prizes.
That's cool. Yeah.
Right? That's cool. That's
Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
Now it's kind of like, let's clog downtown. Everybody come and take the same spot on the Parliament Hill. And then everybody go home and clog traffic. There's like 10 fireworks. There might be like 3 singers.
Have a picnic on the lawn.
Like, let's really think about this.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
in the ideal Canada Day would be freaking Drake headlining it in downtown
I
Ottawa.
always,
right?
Yo, to the government of Canada, man. The capital. We have the capital here in Ottawa. Why don't you get, like, for 2024, like, let's have people like Drake,
Yes,
The Weeknd,
yes. Tory Lanez, but he's locked up.
Justin Bieber.
Yeah, that's a perfect headline.
Bro, you know how
swear
many
if
people
you
would
ask-
flock?
I swear, if you ask, they'll come. I think they have enough pride in Canada.
I don't understand it, man.
But here's my end result. Like, we have so much celebrities, character.
We
have
do.
talent. We have
Shawn
all this
Mendes,
stuff. We have
Camila-
all this stuff.
Oh, sorry, not
You-
Camila. Whatever.
We have all this stuff. Shania Twain is one.
Yeah.
We have all this stuff. And if you go see how sad it is,
Bro, they'll
on
go to
Parliament
festivals
Hill, yeah,
that are 2 hours away from here,
exactly.
but not show up to
Which is
Canada
fine.
Day.
No, if it's about business, it's fine if you don't come for a random concert, sure. But on
Just-
Canada
I'm
Day,
sure you could give them a
phone it
bag.
in, phone it in, and just show up. You know what I mean? Just show up and just show like national pride. Because again, one of the reasons why I'm getting to this is because it does link back to the pride stuff you're talking about. I phrased it to people saying like, have you noticed that nobody really has Canadian pride? And all of them went directly to trans rights. I'm talking about the freaking country.
You see?
They all would just went to like, oh, but we do like this, there's that, there's like this funding for them. I was like, that's fine. I wasn't even trying to mention that.
Pride,
I'm
yeah.
talking about Canada. Like respect your damn country, man.
Yeah.
Like
Canada's giving me everything and more. Like
it
safety
makes me so
opportunity.
mad to know that we have all this talent, we have all this creativity, we have everything,
Melting pot,
and we don't
culture.
freaking celebrate it properly.
But it begs the question about if it's Bud Light doing it, and you said Lockheed Martin and companies in North America, is there not going to be a company that comes out and says, wait, look, we respect this, but we believe in blah, 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 and we're not wrong for not putting a rainbow on our logo. We're not wrong for that.
No, it should be up to them. But I will say I'm noticing more people just hop on the bandwagon just to maintain relevance and profit margins.
I also think because the whole transgender movement is a new movement in terms of like the past 100 years. It's a very new movement. So I think anything that's new is going to cause friction. Now, because something new, people don't want anything to impede on the progress of this thing. So if you come out and even so snuff at the idea of saying, I am not comfortable with where it's headed, immediately you get people, and I'm sure there are celebrities out there where they're almost like, I'm sure their publicist is like, yo, like you got to advocate for this to kind of, be in the green and not be in the red.
Yeah, get yourself in that group with that group,
Yeah.
But
the in group and the out group in psychology, we have
these
that.
are still like, yeah, I know, and these are still high end accounts. Like we're taking in corporations and we're talking about celebrities, but like locally, right? And I'm not saying anything for or against it, but there's friction on a local scale here. So, and I don't know if you saw this going on, but there's a whole bunch of protests with the school board right now and some of the literature that they're passing on.
That is,
and
that's another topic for another podcast.
Well, sort of, but like
if we ever delve down that rabbit hole, it's
yeah, but just to say that I will say the friction is getting. Yeah, well, I guess we'll talk on another one.
You know what I think? Well, I think that because the majority of people on Earth, and like, is this blasphemous to say, are straight. The majority of people on Earth.
Yeah,
right?
I think those numbers will stay where they are.
Currently, the majority of people, right? So to have a movement to highlight the minority is important to a certain extent,
Yeah.
However, it's gonna to get wide mainstream attention. I feel like every third or fourth post, it's almost like Ocean's Gate again. I just see always the trans movement and whatnot. To have let's say to basic terms, like 100 people, and 4 of them are trans, or maybe even that's a lot, right? 3 of them are trans, and then you got 97 who are not. I'm not even saying straight, just who are not. And then you want the 3 to have such a movement that the 97 are in full agreement and together as a whole cry out and say, yeah, you know, like we do need this put in our schools, or we do need this being taught to our children. It's like, hey man, like just, can we just slow it down a little bit? Like, I feel like things are accelerating so fast. Is it just me? I don't know. I feel like things are going really fast, and maybe there'll be an episode where it's like I just have a lot on my mind and we just kind of vent it all out.
Yeah, we can talk about societal concerns because there
For
are
sure.
a lot. There are logistical concerns with this. And it's not to say to snuff it. It's more to
And
say
don't
how
even,
to
for
coexist.
anyone that watches
Yeah.
this or thinks or even tries to comment and say, oh, like, how dare you not try to look at it from their point of view, that they're being oppressed. Don't make it that, because I'm not taking that angle. I'm not taking that. That's not my take
let
here.
them
And
do
if that's,
them, bro.
And
Yeah.
honestly, if that's what you draw from this, so be it. All right, so can you tell me what you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, so there's a mayor in Mexico, Victor Hugo Sosa, who basically married an alligator. And I know what you're thinking.
Remember the Eiffel Tower, and then the story of the 60s with the
I don't search for this.
Dolphin.
It just shows up on my feed. But what I'm trying to say
I don't know what
is,
your search history might guy.
I'm just gonna come with a different animal or a different person marrying a different object every episode.
Every episode. Sorry, yeah, okay, go ahead.
This week's wedding corner. But anyways, so he married an alligator, and I know what you're thinking. You're gonna be like, okay, that's freaking weird. It's a one-off situation. This is a tradition in the Oaxaca province of Mexico.
Whoa.
And this tradition is not something that the people now are doing. This is extremely old. Like, he just brought it back. It's like a one-off case scenario, but this was acknowledged by Aztecs and Mayans pre-Spanish invasion. So this goes down into their history.
Thank you so much for watching this episode. We clearly didn't need the third guest. No, we did good without
fat.
you, Newer.
Yeah.
So shout out to Newer, and yeah, take care. Signing out. Peace.
R.I.P. Peter.
Peace.